Hey up everybody and welcome back. Well, this should be it hopefully. Admittedly it's Friday afternoon and my valve finally arrived, the Merc piece, which of course we've had lots of comments about. So just out of interest, I kept the little bag it came in because it's not a sort of aftermarket piece, it's a genuine Mercedes piece. God, it isn't German, a weird language. Ventil Kurbelgehauser Sintflutung, which means valve, engine block, breather. So that's exactly what we wanted. Alright, so we'll fit that on. We've got our final fettling to do. I had a lot of comments about things like cables and stuff, but you know, you don't do that until you're right finished, because I put the rubbers on to mount the tank, I might have to make some changes. You know, these are all tiny little things that get done in that last couple of hours, so don't worry about them. So say lots of comments, comments about the cables and all sorts of things, but as we go along I'll probably answer most of those if I didn't actually write you an answer. As I say, if you ask me a question I'll answer it. If you're just making a comment, I might answer the comment, or I might just sort of take it as being read. Okay, you're commenting on something, so comment noted. But anyway, I think absolutely, definitely, for sure, maybe we'll be all done and we'll get this started. So I suppose the best thing to do is just to get on and do it. Right, so as you know, the hold-up has been waiting for this, so how we're going to use it. Also, by the way, exactly the same day that this came, the new tank mounting rubbers arrived. So what I am going to do, because this is a barb fitting at both ends, and that's a big hole, that's the thing that goes in it. It actually has a little, I guess originally it was an O-ring that goes on there, and then that's a really tight fit in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut that off right there. Then I'm just going to turn a little piece which has the right size, same size fitting as that, put it in there, weld it in, then that'll get put in there. We'll put a little piece of tubing on, we'll put that on, it goes that way, and then I'm going to put another piece of tubing on. I'll take it out of the way, maybe down towards the chain, and I'm going to use clear tubing for no other reason than I'm interested to see if we get any oil out of this. Clear tubing might look odd, in which case I'll just replace it for black tubing, but once that piece is in there, then reaching up and pulling off the piece of rubber to put this on will be no difficulty. So let's make this piece up for that. So I cut that off, and this wasn't concentric at all. I had to bore a little bit out. You can see just in there, it's still, I didn't want to go any bigger, but that's fine. So this is a push fit into that box. So I thought to myself, I don't really need to weld this in. It's not under any great pressure or anything like that. So all I'm going to do is the same thing. I'm going to make a push fit one. So I've got to pick, oh, that's being turned down too much. Alright, I'll have to use this end. It's 3/4. Make a nice tight fit and press it in there. So we'll turn this down, piece to fit into there, and then a piece basically the same size as that to take, I think it's 5/16 hose with a 1/4 inch hole through it, just to match up with that. Oh, and there's a little piece made. So that is going to go in there. A little drift here to knock it in with. So that's in there. Then I put the little rubber thing on there. There we go, and then we can just fit our piece of hose onto that and we're in business. Okay, let's go and bolt this on. It seems to have knocked that out. There is the thickness of the gasket. Okay, let's go and bolt it on. Right, we'll put this on. Before we do that, I was just mentioning the little changes you have to make as you go along. I actually ground a little bit off the bottom of that because putting the box on just caught on it. It wasn't the bolts wouldn't go in easily, and I just realised it was catching very slightly on the bottom of that, but there was enough meat to be able to grind a little bit off just on this side. So those are the things you've got to do. Alright, gasket. Where's the box gone? Then the box. 4 bolts. That's it. And that. This is how I found out I needed to grind a bit off. I couldn't get these top bolts in without really juggling it because it was just catching on that side. So I soon got that sorted. Right, that goes on there. The short ones would be easiest here on these top ones, so let me just drive them in and then I'll get an ordinary L-shaped one to tighten them up. Now the final routing of this is going to have to wait till I've got the carbs on, because I forgot we have that alloy plate here that mounts the manifold. So we'll put this on and then I can always fiddle around with the pipe later on. So that is going to go on there like that. Nice tight fit. And then this, as I say, we'll route when we get round to it. I was hoping it was going to go... Nah, that would look stupid. Now it's going to go down here. Actually, I think it might... go like that. Just down the inside. Let me swing around. I don't think you can quite see that. No, you can't. Move my chair. I have to sit down a lot now because I'm getting to be an old man, you know. 69 the other week. Alright, so what we'll do with it, I think, is run it down just there like that. And shorten that and fasten it so it's just over the chain. I think that'll be fine. I don't think that'll get in the way of anything if it's just on the outside of the pipe. And I mean, it's a competition bike, it's supposed to have bits that stick out and what have you. Alright, let me get the carbs sorted and we'll see about routing the cables. Well, I've been fiddling around a little bit. I'll show you what's what in a minute. You'll notice this is higher up here. I did have somebody mention run along the top and I thought that's a good idea. So you'll see how I've routed that. Fuel lines are fine. I also had a couple of comments about T-pieces. Why didn't I just, because there was 2 taps, why didn't I just go tap to carb on each side? Well, with this tank sort of situated the way it should be, which it is now because it's on the proper rubbers, the tunnel is right up here. So you're going to have this much fuel laying in either side. And don't forget, you put the bike on the side stand so that it all floods over there. When you stand it back up, you might only have this much over here and that much over there. So you start using it, and before you know what's happened, this side is empty. I mean, if you always keep it full, it doesn't matter. But this side is empty, so it's not going to feed this right-hand carb, or vice versa. So that's why you put a T-piece. If you think about the concentrics, the banjo on the bottom, you can get dual feed banjos. They're like that. And when you have twin carbs, you put one on each carb, and it goes down into the carb, through the banjo, into the next banjo, and then up to the other tank, or the other tap. So one way or another, if you have two carbs and two taps, you really should have them connected together. And as I say, for no other reason than it equalizes the pressure in the fuel lines. So a couple of things have come out. Let's see if you can see them from here. No, not really. I will move you around and zoom you in. Right, this one goes on fine. The other one is catching on our little valve. So what I'm going to do is put a longer piece of tube on just to move the valve down a little bit so that it's out of the way of that. So let me do that, a little bit of tube, because I've got lots of tube on the end. We'll do that, and I'll take the tank off and show you what's happening there. Now what I've done with the throttle cables is, as I say, instead of routing them here, and one of them went through there, I've brought them both up the top. There's enough room at the side there, and there I've just notched that a little, and that'll sit down nicely on there, and actually that'll hold them. That puts this up here, which gives us a bit more cable, because one viewer was worried about the bend into there. The bend is fine, it's nice, and it's a nice curve, it's not a corner, there's no kink in it, and I have tried lock to lock on the steering, it doesn't tighten up, so everything is fine there. So these will get fastened on, that'll sit on top of them, which will hold them all. We'll maybe pull them back a little bit, good, because we've got plenty up there now. Now it was also mentioned about these adjusters being for adjusting the individual carbs, and I should still have one up here. There's no point in having one up there if I've got enough adjustment here to adjust to take up all the slack and to balance the carbs. And I'll show you the little method I've been using for balancing carbs all the time, shown to me by a little old man like I am now, like a lot of you are now. Anyway, we'll balance the carbs, but there's plenty of adjustment in these to take up all the slack we need. So let's fasten on these rubbers. Well, I'll do this piece of tube here. We'll just put a tape around those rubbers to hold them. We'll get that sorted. Another thing that was mentioned, although I don't think it's necessary now, when it was down here, it's funny, a lot of times I read the comments, you know, which are sort of mid-week. I look at them to give a chance to get a few to build up, and by then I've sort of been thinking about what I did the previous week. And one chap mentioned making a bracket here, and I'd been thinking of drilling this, making a little bracket, drilling and tapping into here like a little clamp to hold it. I actually now don't know if it's going to be necessary, but I always could put a little clamp here. Again, it's one of those things that we can do at any time. In fact, I wouldn't even need to take the tank off. Drill a couple of holes, tap them, make a little strap bracket, a couple of nice little, say, 5mm, because I've got some 5mm stainless steel Allen screws to hold that up there. But let me do this bit of the valve here to get this down. Well, I'll tell you what we'll do, in fact, to make sure all this is right. We'll put the manifold and the air filters on, because I don't want to do that and then find it's going to foul there. So I've got the cables routed with some nice curves. I got this in, it actually goes in just through there, so that's going to be out the way behind the panel. I'll go down, I'll put a little clip on. In fact, if I put a longer screw through there, bolt through there, I can probably get to the back of that and make a little clip to hold it, and it'll be pointed right at the chain, which you can't see. But anyway, The main thing about this, let me pull you out a bit more then, and drop you down. There. Now you can see I fasten it, it'll be pointed at the chain. So that's all good, everything's on, all tightened up. Now all I've got to do is take it all back off again, because I got so carried away getting everything fitted, I forgot that I haven't checked that the carb's balanced. So I'm going to have to be able to get into the choke for that. But anyway, that's all fit. So what we'll do is we'll carry on, because that's not difficult to take off, get the tank situated and all that sort of stuff, and then I'll come back and show you a little way of doing the carb balancing. Now I've taken the air filter and everything off so we can do this. And here I have a couple of problems, because the carbs aren't what's known as a handed pair. So in other words, the adjusters are on the left hand side of both carbs. It's fine for the left hand carb, but it means they're in the middle here for the right hand carbs. And also, of course, to fit these in, I've had to have them point inwards, so that gives me even less room. So for the first couple of adjustments, I've actually turned this one round so I can get at the screws. I've set the air screws to the same place, 1 1/4 turn out. So you screw it in until it just lightly seats, and then screw it out however far you're wanting to do it. So I've done it 1 1/4, which is actually what Roger had set them to before he sent them. And the next thing to do is to take the cable and make sure there's slack in it, so that the slide is sitting down at the bottom. And using the slide adjuster, which is the big one that sticks out at an angle, you want to make sure that the slides are not sitting on the adjusters. You want the slides right down. So what you do is you screw the adjuster out. We're going to do this one, and even this one I can barely see into it actually. So we screw the adjuster out all the way so we know it's not on there. Then you screw it in. I hope you're going to be able to see this, until the slide just starts to move. Screwdriver keeps coming out the slot. There it goes. Then you screw it back down until it drops off. And if you do that a couple of times, you'll up and down, you'll get it to the right spot. So let me fiddle on to do this other one, and then we'll come to the really important part. Now I've taken up the slack in the cables, so it's just about there. The next thing you need, 2 pieces of rod, about 1/8 inch. If you've got 2 1/8 inch drill bits, they're fine. And what we're going to do is we're going to lift the slide using the cable. I'll put this in underneath so the slide is holding it. Right? Now make sure you put it under the front part of the slide, because don't forget the back part's got a cutaway. And the reason to use the cable to pull the cable up is, if you turn the twist grip, that's probably going to fall out before you can get the other one in. So you put these in each side, and you try and put them in about the same amount on each side. So that they're gripped by the slides. Then what we're going to do is work the twist grip, and as the slides go up, these should dip. And of course, if the carbs are balanced, i.e. if the slides are moving at the same time, then they should dip at the same time. So let's see what happens. You see that one's moving and this one isn't? It's just starting to move, but not quite. So this one, we've got a little bit of slack in the cable. Oops. And basically you just keep working on it. Let me just check the other side. See, this is one of those things where if I film it all, it can just eat up lots and lots of film. But this is the way it works. It's just backwards and forwards. See, now this one's going first. So there's a little bit of slack in that one still. Boring watching this, isn't it? But this is how you do it. Anyway, let me finish it off and then I'll bring you back. Right, I think we're there now. Yep, there we go. So I'll lock up the adjusters and then we'll put the air filters back on. Now there's the shortened filters fastened into the taps. So let me pop a couple of Doughty washers on and screw them into the tank and then we'll mount the tank. Now these alloy tanks are mounted onto rubbers and then there's this bolt that goes in the centre. So you see it doesn't have a bolt head here, but I don't know if you can see it, it's got two flats machined on it that catch in there. So that goes in, then there's a little tube, then there's a big washer. These actually aren't as thick, so I guess these have been added later. That goes on there like that. That's an original rubber, which has now gone hard. That's the rubber you get nowadays. And inside that goes another piece of tube which isn't as long as the thickness of this rubber, so that when you put that on and the nut, see the nuts, again I don't think this is the right nut because I seem to remember they had a little, it was a sort of collared nut that went down into there. But the idea is that when the nut goes on, you put the tank on, you tighten it up and you squish the rubber. And of course, as you squish it lengthwise, the diameter gets bigger and that grips the tank. So let me get this nut on and then we'll find the tank. Actually, it was just catching on the bottom. As soon as I moved it, it went on a little bit further. Now, I know I'm going to get a lot more comments about this, so to forestall them, the more I think about it, the less I like it. So I'm going to do something with it. I've done more research. I still can't find a twin side pull twist grip, but the only one I can think of is the BMW one, which is a big one. BMW also have 1-inch handlebars, so and these are 7/8, so I'd have to start making sleeves, all sorts of things. But I think what I'm going to have to do is just make up some cables so that I can have this down here out of the way. But in the meantime, I'm not going to stop the whole project just for that. We're up to what, week 29? So that goes on down on there like that. Down onto the rubbers. Excuse my head. Everything is fitted in, so now we tighten that nut. I'll go around the other side. Really want to squish that rubber so that it grips, because don't forget that's all that's holding this on. Believe me, that is tight, and of course it means that it is fully rubber mounted. Right? Yeah, I'll think of something about that. Okay, so that's that on. Now we can put our hoses on. Fuel hoses on. Come on. One goes on there. Now I've set the handles, the taps, to be in there so they're out of the way. They're easy enough to get at, but they're not sticking out where you can catch them with your knee maybe and knock it closed. Right, let me tighten those nuts up. Next thing is the saddle. Oh, I should have put the locking bar in for the hydraulics. Come on. Hang on. I'll put the bar in so it doesn't keep going click, click, click. It's typical, you know, I have 2 or 3 friends with exactly the same table and they have no problems. I guess I got the one the day they weren't being particularly careful about the hydraulic ram. Okay, that's one bolt in. You know what I think I might do here? I won't now, but I will for later on, is make a couple of spacing pieces so I can put longer bolts in and the heads will stick down when I can get at them easier. Throw the new bolt in there as well. Anyway, let me get this bolt in. Next thing, side panels. Right, go and do the one on the other side. Then the exhaust. Of course, one of these nice chromed lock washers has disappeared. Must be around somewhere and I'll find it. Right, and that comes along here. A bit of grease. On the bolt. Spacing piece. And then that goes into there. Where's me? Take out, there it is. I've used the big washers under there. Give me a minute, I'm going to change them for the small ones. Yeah, that's better. There was one of the small washers, well the 6mm, on this, and I just thought, yeah, I like that better. Okay. So there we go. The exhaust on the other side, and then we'll get the full effect. Right, I put a bit of this anti-seize stuff on these nuts. It's like copper slip, only far messier. It's one of the reasons why I don't like using it. It just gets everywhere. I've also got black rubber cap to go in the hole on the tank. Fortunately, it's a plain one. Most of the ones I've seen say BSA in them. Alright, I suppose the thing to do now is to get it down, put some petrol in it. Told you that yellow and alloy would look good, didn't I? Right, we'll put some petrol in. Keep your fingers crossed it doesn't come out the bottom as fast as it goes in the top. I hate these modern safety things. Why they can't just have a little vent instead of all sorts of buttons you've got to press and things like that. And of course they don't vent, so you go out with that one out in the sun and it looks about ready to burst. Okay. Well, nothing leaking from the taps. There's fuel going in there. Fuel going in there. Pop one of the emitter on one side and make sure we're still running there. Yep, I've got my little red flashing light. Alright, is this going to be good or is this going to be embarrassing? Seems to go. Maybe need a touch on the carbs again. But wow, what was that? Second kick from cold, from just rebuilt. Pleased with that. Just noticed a loose bolt, so let me tighten that up. And the next thing I suppose we've got to do is get it off the table and give it a quick run round on the grass. That's another one done, and this is a keeper. You know, like Steam Shop Dave, for those of you who know him, has set his steam machine shop up to be sort of a 1925 job shop. Well, I built 3 bikes for myself, a little bit of nostalgia. They're a Scrambler, like they would have been in the 60s. There's a 60s trials bike, because people were still riding a lot of the Enfields in the 60s. And there was a cafe racer, as we would call it now. Again, same way we would have built them in the 60s. So that's my little collection. So from now on, because I'm running out of space and other reasons, I'm going to build some bikes that I'm going to sell. So next week will be the start of a new project. In other words, I'll show you what it is and tell you what we're planning as usual. And funnily enough, it's sort of third choice, because I had a plan for what I was going to do next, and I bought something for it which I won't tell you, but it's over in Rhode Island, so I can't go and get it yet. So then I had an idea for a second project which I was planning, but I was going to do it a little while later. I thought I'll move that forward, and then something fell into my lap, so to speak, for basically nothing. I'll explain that next week. So that is going to be our next project. Alright, so I tell you, this thing goes... I didn't get out first gear. I rode it through all the gears to make sure it would go through the gears up and down the drive, but I'm not a motocross rider, and the grass was a bit wet, so... But I tell you what, you open this thing up and it really goes. So I'm pleased with it. Anyway, so until next week, stay safe and enjoy yourselves.